All right, so let's get started. Welcome everybody. My name is Lanco Luconi. I am the founder and director of the Costa Rica Piano Festival. And today we have another episode of Pedagogy Talks with none other than the wonderful Irina Gorin. Irina, welcome again and thanks for joining us this week.
Hello, thank you for inviting me again.
Yeah, so just a couple of reminders before we start. If you're joining us on Zoom, keep your mics muted and your camera off. And at the end, we'll have a section where you can ask questions. And I think without further ado, we can get started. So today we have a very broad topic, and we were discussing earlier today that this topic can be explored and navigated in different ways. But today we want to well, basically start with motivation, goal setting, and how to remain consistent for the kids and then also for ourselves, because there's so much to learn for ourselves here as well. So Irina, in your experience, what's the key factor to maintain motivation?
Yes, it's a very good question actually, and I've been thinking a lot about it because uh, we can't piano lessons. It's such a long-term relationship. It cannot be always successful. It cannot be always exciting. We all have some downtime, and we need some motivation to get out of that. And I've been thinking, what is motivation? And my answers I found were it's a drive, it's a enthusiasm, it's a desire to reach a certain goal. And that's where you need to be very careful of setting these goals for ourselves and our students, because these goals will be all different. Even for students the same age, the goals to motivate them could be very different.
I guess this is
For
where
example,
yeah, go ahead.
for example, when we talk about beginners, very young children, they cannot think of goals to make music the part of their lives, or to become a concert pianist, or to even to become any profession. They just can't think what will happen in 20 years, in 15 years. So for young children, we need to actually start developing their skills to set goals, because they don't have them. And we do it with very little steps. Either it could be preparation for the recital, or participation in a little competition, or inviting friends to piano party, or memorizing the song of their choice, or learning the song of their choice. So we really need to set little goals that are very achievable in a very short time.
I see. Yeah, so uh, this has to start from the very beginning, and I guess it starts also with us, because in a way we are projecting this desire and this drive that you were talking about as teachers. We have to show this attitude of excellence and trying to get better, right? Even at a very young age. And then, like you said, the little goals become bigger goals, and that's where the teacher can start steering, the direction and helping the student or guiding the student to reach their personal goals. But and we were talking earlier too, like how do we know what the key motivation aspects are in the student? And this is where, at least me personally, I think it's so important for the teacher to get to know their student, regardless of the age. They need to get to know their student. What's their personality like? What do they prefer? What their interests? Because from there you can derive a lot of communication tools to use imagery, to use stories and stuff that will help them see this, right? If they cannot see it, if they cannot see it in their mind, like, oh, I can become this, even if it's a little bit, I can memorize this little song, and then after I memorize this little song, I can play a little recital for my family, right? And then from this recital, I can do maybe a bigger one, and then from here, I can go to a competition, and so on, right? So, and I guess that's where it starts, right? And
Yes, we piano teachers, we become mentors for many years for these um, very tender ages when kids are young and they become teenagers and young adults. And this is the most important time of the lives to establish the character traits, the motivation, the perseverance, ability to set right goals and make the right choices. And I would say we teachers play a huge role in children's life, and that's why it's very important to start building relationship from the very first lessons. Kids have to love us and they have to trust us, and then they'll follow our directions. If they
absolutely.
don't establish this connection, we can't expect them to try to please us or try to follow what we ask them to do.
That's
That's
100%.
very
I couldn't
important.
agree more. I couldn't agree more with that. It doesn't matter how good your advice is, or how good your instruction or your technical knowledge is. If you don't create that relationship, if you don't have that chemistry with your student, they're just not going to absorb that information. They're not going to get everything that you have to give. So, and kids are very emotional and non-rational in that way. They, you can't you can't reason with them the same way that you would with an adult, right? They're very emotional, and you have to start from there, get them excited about learning in general. And then if you keep that up, then in the later years, when sometimes the personality changes a little bit, attitudes change, they become teenagers, they're more likely to maintain that skill that they build of goal setting.
Definitely. They will not want to disappoint the person they love.
Right.
They would like to continue doing.
Right.
Yes,
Well, and
absolutely.
this is then now talking about not just the motivation, but the consistency. Because one thing is to, okay, I'm motivated, I wanna do it. There's a famous phrase that says the easiest thing to do is to start. But then what? It's like you start, you have to maintain. If you want to grow, you have to maintain and keep grinding. Like we say. So if you set up from the beginning a good strategy, a good foundation, the skills are going to get better. But there's now going to be the challenge of, okay, now we have to maintain it. Yeah. So what's your take on the now maintenance of this momentum that we build?
So we need to start with teaching them how to set the goals first, and then we need to give them a lot of strategies how to reach these goals. And one of those strategies, one of the very important one, is consistency and discipline. That they, if they establish from early lessons that this education, musical education, requires everyday practice, then they will stick with it. If they think, or if parents don't insist on regular practice, and kids think, oh, I can practice and learn it on the day of the lesson, we will not achieve any of the goals that are set. And parents really need to understand that, and we need to educate them. They have no idea. We have to educate them with different articles or personal talks or emails, newsletters about how important the consistency of practice and discipline. Of course, I don't mean that kids have to be forced through tears, through arguments to practice. This is not going to work at all. So again, discussing with parents the strategies of getting kids wanting to practice, even for a short amount of time at first. And then it will gradually become their second nature. They will not be able to live a day without practice and they will miss it.
Right, but this has to be teamwork, right? The teacher and the parent, and of course, the student. Um, the parent plays an enormous role. Sometimes they don't think so, and this is where the teacher has to educate them, like you said. Like your role is very, very big in this project that we have with this kid, and especially because I mean they have the kid there at home like every day. They come to you like once a week for whether it's half an hour or 1 hour, but you see them once a week, and there's only so much you can do, and whatever uh, continuation of what happened in the lesson has to be supervised by the parent in a way.
And sometimes I've learned through my own experience, sometimes we assume that parents know what to do. And they're either too shy to ask or don't even think to ask us
Or
questions.
they just don't know. They
So
just
we
don't
need
know. Yeah.
so we need to treat them uh, just like beginners and explain absolutely everything. How, how much, how long, how often kids need to practice, how to help them. And this is such an important area that with one of the parent of my students, we created a Facebook group called Piano Parent Teacher Support Community,
Mm.
because we do not know much about parents, as well as they don't know anything about music education and how to help children at home. So we are trying to support parents to create a community that will where they can ask questions or share their own experiences or show off their kids. So it's really important topic.
Yes, that well, always building a community around things is whether you know a lot about them or not. It's very, very useful. Sometimes I'm sure at least I've had some of my student parents be frustrated because they don't know what to do, or sometimes it's not enough, or kids have different personalities, and some of them have very strong characters. And if we can use that towards reaching positive goals, they can be massively successful.
Yes,
Uh,
but education is number one thing.
yes.
And when I start new student, I I can say that 50% of the time I educate the parent, because without parents involvement, uh, proper guide, uh, we will not reach our goals. We will not be able to motivate kids or bring them joy from playing the instrument.
Right. Yeah, making it clear from the very, very beginning. I couldn't agree more as well. Well, very, very useful. Thank you, Irina. I think we have some questions here. We have a question here from Michelle. Um, is there any good article to educate parents? Do you have a specific article, Irina, for parents?
You know, there are tons of materials on internet online. Just choose what you like better. Yeah, but I would say the most important is constant contact with the parent. Don't leave it for 2 months without any communication. You have to communicate with parents regularly.
Right. You also want
I
to
don't.
know from them, right? You want to monitor what they're doing at home, so that the typical question answer that we get, like we discussed last week, was, "Oh, but it was perfect at home. I played it perfect at home." And then we don't have any reference. We need some sort of witness or some supervisor at home to tell us, okay, what was really going on there.
So parents have to be educated from many different sides. It has to be helping to grow musically to their child, like taking children to live concerts, to music festivals, to just to take a walk in the park. Kids these days are so
Mm.
busy. All they know is going to school, and then riding in the car, activity, riding in the car, another activity, back home, eat, go to bed. And that will not help us to help better humans. It will not help anyone.
Yeah.
Kids have to have time kids to play outside, to take a walk in the nature, talk to parents about uh, how green the leaves are and how beautiful the flowers and how wonderfully they smell. And that will enrich them as human beings, and it will all help them to grow musically as well, just as connecting with art and literature. But without parents, kids cannot do it on themselves by themselves.
Right. Yeah, sometimes we forget how important our environment is to uh, to bring out that potential, right? Or just to shape us. The environment, in many ways, it shapes us, and this is an unconscious process. Many times we don't know, and then before we know it, we become what we're surrounded by. And if we're surrounded by always music, encouragement, nature, physical activity, discipline, then that's what that's the program that we're installing in our brains. So I couldn't
I
think of a better way to raise a kid with that environment, positive environment.
I remember I had a parent of a student, and when I talked to them about going to live concerts, they said, "Why should I? There's so many recordings online right now." So they don't understand values of that. So parents have to be educated on everything and how to help children to practice at home and why they need to read to kids about composers and about actually there is a great source for parents and students to create that bond and read together and listen is Piano Explorer magazine. I really like it as a source to give them assignments together to parents and students. They have also to create that musical bond, another bond between themselves so they don't argue about going to practice
Mhm.
or going to piano lesson. Yes, so many different aspects of piano education of piano parents. That's why there is no, to answer Michelle's question, there is no specific article that will cover everything. There have to be different areas, different um, approaches for many different
Yeah,
topics.
the piano magazines, they're very good. They're sometimes there's experts writing amazing articles there. So I highly what do I say, suggest that you that you maybe subscribe to one of those magazines, and just read in general. Like there's plenty of books and stuff on the internet for sure. Yeah. What's the
And
name? She.
sometimes
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
it's called Piano Explorer.
Piano Explorer.
Yes, yes. Sometimes parents have wrong goals. I know parents who would come bring children to take piano lessons because they want the child to have fun, or they want them to stay busy, not to
Mm,
get in trouble. And if parents have those goals, we cannot expect motivation, we cannot expect good attitude or continuous relationship because it's very different, and that's why we really need to educate them.
absolutely. Yeah. So they're asking here. Oh, Michelle's also asking, what's the name of the Facebook group? Let me write it here. What is the name again?
It's called Piano Parent Dash Teacher Support Community.
Or I wrote it for everyone there on the chat. Let's see. We have another question here. Ciliana says, "Can you say how you have created the parent support group? Did you designate a parent to create, oversee it, or do you deal with that?" Well, I guess the group.
Several administrators who are parents and teachers that moderate the group. It's not very active because it's still very new, but we have around 1,000 of teachers and parents in the group, so we keep open communication and
Well,
educate each other.
well,
Some people have absolutely um, amazing experience that they share with others, and even for us teachers it's very interesting to learn. And I would say, after raising 3 children and trying to teach all of them playing piano, I can tell that now I would do it absolutely differently.
yeah. Um, that's even I don't have any kids myself, but sometimes even uh, students that I had like many years ago, I still think like, oh, I should have done this thing differently, or I should have spoken to the parent earlier, or I should have mentioned this. Maybe sometimes, and that's how we learn, of course. We make those mistakes along the way, but sometimes just one word or one sentence, one thing that we share with a parent or with a student could have made a huge difference in the long run. So, but this comes with experience, I guess.
I used to have quite a few families where relationship about piano lessons between kids and parents were absolutely amazing. And I asked those parents to put together how they achieved that. And then I shared with new parents. So it's very interesting for them
That's an
to,
amazing tip.
after children graduated piano lessons, went to college, how parents were keeping up with all
Hmm.
this during.
How do they handle it? Yeah.
Yes. I remember that most important words are encouragement, support, loving uh, attitude, never arguing, but expecting results,
Hmm.
expecting high standards.
Yes, yes. I think, okay, last question for today. Uh, if a parent constantly requests to assign, I guess, more homework weekly, what do you do? The problem is the child already has more pieces than other students weekly as parents pushed.
I think the problem here is child doesn't know what to do with pieces, and parent tries to fill the time at the piano with more pieces. So it's very important for the teacher to teach the child to work, to give enough strategies to work on certain piece, to give really good, realistic goals. Of course, some parents could at times a little bit too pushy, and it says about not enough respect to a teacher. I always tell parents, your child's interest is my best interest, so you have to trust me. If there is no trust, we can't work together. And sometimes teachers are in a very difficult situation because parent says, I want my child to play Moonlight Sonata in 3 months, or I want him to learn uh, 25 etudes by Chopin by the age of 10. Sometimes we hear things like that, and it's hard because it obviously shows not enough respect. But it also a red flag that maybe we don't spend enough time on teaching strategies, teaching how to practice,
Yes,
how.
I think learning how to practice. I had a friend that used to say, "Learning how to learn or practice how to learn." Um, I think is probably one of the most valuable things you can get out of your teacher. For all the students out there, regardless of your level or your age, uh, knowing how to practice is going to be the biggest factor of your progress. Uh, so when this is reinforced with a healthy environment at home and also supported by the parent as well, the progress can be unimaginable. They can go very fast. Uh, that's an important thing to tell the parent as well, especially when they don't know how to manage their expectations, or they want to do big competition, and they started 3 weeks ago. And it's I think to solve that, sometimes very impatient, they just want it to happen now or very, very soon. You can explain how that growth, or how you will get there eventually, if you have the right ingredients, right?
Yes.
So I think we're gonna leave it here, because I know we could keep talking about this for forever, and it's a topic that we're both very passionate about. So, but of course, if you want to know more, if you want to go in depth with this topic and many other topics, I encourage you all to sign up for the pedagogy webinar that we'll have during the Costa Rica Piano Festival, which is going to be online. Irina is going to be teaching it, and we'll explore many other topics. If you want to know more, go to our website, CostaRicaPianoFestival.com. The dates are July 13 through 18, and we'll have also master classes with our faculty, and also an improvisation workshop as well. So we're full of activities. There's plenty of opportunities here to learn. So I encourage you to join us. And so next week, we'll have another episode of the Pedagogy Talks. Thank you so much, Irina, for joining us today. This was amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone that joined us. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter on our website and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And we will see you next Monday. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Pura vida.